I've been counting down the days, the weeks, the moments that I rise back into the ring.
Well, I'm a dangerous fighter. I possess a lot of skills in the ring. I think he made a mistake if he's looking at me as a tune-up fight.
The fact that I've been out for more than 2 years is one of the reasons why Barrios has stepped up to this challenge with confidence. But that form of confidence is a mistake. He was a great champion, but he's never stepped up to this caliber.
I'm looking to solidify my mark in the welterweight division.
He has not seen this speed. He has not seen this power.
I know I'm gonna be ready for whatever he brings come fight night.
Keith Time Thurman is like a dragon in the dungeon, just waiting to be released.
I'm gonna do whatever it takes come fight night to make sure that I'm victorious.
The welterweight division is a different division. February 5th, Mario Barrios will discover that reason.
Introducing Keith One Time.
He's back, right? So it feels like Keith Thurman has put the welterweight division on notice. Former 2-belt champion, he's finally returning to the ring. It's happening on February 5th on FOX Sports PBC Pay-Per-View. It's against the former super lightweight champion, Mario Barrios, who just seems to be determined to make a statement by doing what he wants to do against Keith Thurman and kind of taking the wheels off the one-time comeback train.
First thing that came to mind when I heard that Keith Thurman was fighting Mario Barrios was, it's about time that One Time gets back into this ring. You know what, Keith has, he's been through it all, I think, to this point in his boxing career, so I think that he's learned how to maximize his time off.
Keith Thurman is back after 2 years. He knows how to train, he knows how to fight. This is nothing new to him. He's gonna come to this fight fully loaded and ready for action. I can guarantee you that. Look, all of Keith Thurman's fights are tough. And sometimes you need that rest to rejuvenate yourself and want to get back into the gym and get into action. And that's probably where he's at right now. Even though he's had tough fights, he usually comes out on top. So he's pretty well preserved for his age at this stage of the game.
Keith Thurman's spent a while off of boxing, and certain things that he wants to do may not come immediately, and he's gonna have to work for a few rounds to get it right. Ring rust is definitely a thing that boxers have to deal with. And when you haven't been in the ring for even over a year, you can't be just all of a sudden great in the ring.
The welterweight division is still so exciting. Best fighters in the world at the very top. And I'd love to see Keith Thurman reestablish himself there. Always liked him as a fighter, always excited to see him. You get good quality when he's in the ring, when he's fighting. Good power, a supreme effort. I'd love to see him into that mix with the very top fighters in the world and see if he can become welterweight champion once again.
I think the welterweight division has missed him. He's, for years now, been one of the elite names in the division. He's got one of the best resumes in the division. Obviously, he's had that period of time out with injury and layoff, but I think that now to kind of really figure out whether he does still belong along with those elite names and to figure out how much can he still give the sport, how much can he still give the division, I think it's really exciting.
Introducing Mario El Azteca Barrios.
Mario Barrios is stepping in with another hard hitter. He is a very strong fighter, a very confident fighter, and he's got a lot of will and a lot of heart. So no surprise seeing him step up against Keith Thurman. He has his size, his speed, his strength. He's got a great corner. I think he's got all the intangibles to become a world champion, and it's up to him.
Mario Barrios' fight style is he's coming at you. He's not afraid to take a punch, and he's not afraid to give a punch. And he's coming at you and he wants to hit you with a combination, and there's nothing that's gonna stop him.
We've definitely seen Mario Barrios blow opponents out in seemingly easy fashion before, but I think just as impressive is his resolve when he is faced with adversity. Somehow it feels like he's most dangerous when his back is against the wall, and that kind of makes him lethal for any of the top fighters in the sport. You get the sense that when he sees blood, whether that's his opponent's or whether it's his own, he then seeks to destroy and goes into that mode. So while Keith Thurman was reigning right at the top of the welterweight division, you had Mario Barrios, who was still trying to make a name for himself in a crowded landscape. Once he started getting featured on larger platforms, that it was easy to see that this was a guy who fights at his very best when all eyes are on him.
Keith's fighting style is very conventional, straight up, fights strong, but he's a powerful fighter. He looks bigger than a welterweight. You have kind of an idea of what a welterweight is supposed to look like. Very strong, straight out, I think pleasing to watch. Strong jab, strong right hand, fights straight up the middle coming at you. He's physically strong. I think he's fundamentally sound. And I think he just lands good power shots. He's a guy that, at his peak was a very formidable opponent against anybody in the world.
He's got fast hands, really fast hands. He's really accurate, very accurate. When he throws a punch, you can be assured that the majority of the time it's gonna land. He's got very quick response to what you're gonna do in terms of like counter-punching him. He covers all the major points that I like in a fighter. He's athletic, he's accurate, he's agile, he's fast, he's smart, he's got a good defense. He just gets out of the way of punches just by that little fraction of a second that you've got to do it in. It's why he's only lost to one guy, and that was another guy who's got the same attributes, but maybe a couple of more. And that was Manny Pacquiao. So, Keith Thurman is right up there with the top echelon of champions. He's really exceptional.
Keith Thurman is a complete package. He's got skills and he's got swagger. So if you're trying to sell a fight, he's got that personality. He can talk up a fight like nobody else.
Your boy Keith Time Thurman is back on the rise. I know he likes to quote Bible verses, so I'll let you know he's getting crucified.
In terms of what he can do in the ring, he's a puncher boxer. We've seen that he's got that knockout power that fans are always drawn to, but he's also a smart fighter. He moves well, he thinks well in the ring. I think he's the full deal.
The division is still one of the deepest in boxing and has some of the biggest stars. And I think with Thurman back in that mix, you can only hope that the top fighters will fight each other, that it will be Spence, Crawford, Ugas, Thurman, and that will be the winner's bracket. Any combination of those guys would be big business, would be huge for fans, and would be so exciting to watch.
What's so great about the main event in this one is it's going to give us a real sense of clarity in what is a really stacked division at 147. So if Keith Thurman puts in a great performance and looks really good against Mario Barrios, who we know is a very live opponent, then you're going to know that he's right there in the mix for those fights that he's been calling for. If it goes the other way and Mario Barrios does a job against Keith Thurman, then you know that Mario Barrios is going to get fast-tracked and move through the division and put in some really big fights in potentially just his second fight in the division. So I think it's going to give us a whole different level of clarity.
It's still a deep division. I'd love to see the top guys. I think fans want to see the top guys sorted out.
In 2015, Keith Thurman was a 26-0 world champion with a lot of promise, but still without a really big name on his resume. And Sean Porter would push Keith Thurman to the very limits, but Keith showed that he did have the courage and the firepower to earn a career best win on the big stage.
Introducing to you first the challenger, fighting out of the red corner. He weighed in right at the limit of 147 pounds. His record stands at 26 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Showtime! Sean Porter!
Keith Thurman and Sean Porter head-to-head was the first big fight in the welterweight division in the post-Mayweather era. Manny Pacquiao is still around and was still around at that point, but you had the next generation settling who the champ of the division was.
Two guys, I think of them exactly the same. They both have been 147-pound title holders. Their punch totals are the same over the last 7 fights, and they have the same name in their nicknames. Sean Showtime Porter and Keith One-Time Thurman. So it's Showtime and one time.
I tell you what, when I fought Keith Thurman, it was a big deal. Before the first bell had even rang, you could tell it was a special moment. And there were multiple rounds. When that bell rang, crowd still standing up, cheering, clapping, and sometimes they're clapping for you, sometimes they're clapping for Keith, but you could just feel it. You could feel the energy was really, really special.
Good right hand by Porter. Nailed Thurman from the outside, and then Thurman stands tall with him, and they trade.
When you're fighting for a world title, there's a lot of pressure, and you may not think about it because it's like, yo, both guys are trying to be the champion and get this title. For Keith Thurman, the Porter fight was a big fight for him, a lot of pressure on him because he wanted to be successful. He wanted to show the world that he's the main man.
When you have guys in the top 5 match up, not just the top 10, but in the top 5, I think it was expected that it was going to be a great fight.
I knew that I had to, for the sake of words, stand up to him or be that first guy to say, hey, I'm here to fight you.
He's trying to muscle Keith Thurman.
And I think that in the matter of a couple of rounds, I found some success with that, and it kind of let me know that, you know, taking a fight to Keith is probably the best bet in order to beat him.
The fight against Sean Porter, what you learn about Keith, well, first of all, you saw how real his power is because he rocked Sean Porter a couple of times, and I think Sean isn't an easy guy to rock. So you know that one time's power is definitely real. I think you also saw the dog in him. I think you saw that he has that ability to bite down, to keep fighting when it gets tough. Sean will make it ugly and make it hard on anybody in the ring. So he showed willpower, determination, and also the ability to fight through those difficult moments.
Good right hand by Thurman. That's right hand by Thurman, one of his best in a while.
I think that Keith was feeling the same energy that I was feeling. He was giving it all he had the same way that I gave it all I had. I think that really was a great moment for boxing and a great moment for all of the fans that were watching in the Barclays Arena because you had 2 young guys that did not know any other way to win the fight but to give it their all.
Into round 11 we go. It's been exciting. Crowd up on their feet. Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, letting everything hang out.
I think going into the fight, Keith hadn't quite established himself as the next big draw in the welterweight division. Obviously, you'd had Floyd Mayweather, who'd been the draw, Manny Pacquiao as well alongside him, and you were obviously looking for the next big star. And I think this was the fight that was going to tell you who that potentially could be, because this was 2 of the top guys, 2 of the younger guys, the next generation kind of coming behind Pacquiao and Mayweather. And I think this fight was always destined to tell us who would be the next great.
So a hard-fought contest is on its way to the judges.
Keith Thurman against Sean Porter was a great fight. The fans were excited about it. I was excited about it. Sean Porter always coming, trying to land that big shot. And Keith was always moving, trying to counterpunch, so nobody really got their way. That's what made it a great fight.
The best fights are the ones where you try to think, who's going to win this fight, and you're not sure. I favored Keith Thurman slightly, but slightly. Just like most of the other top welterweight fights, when the top guys face each other, you don't know who's going to win. So you expected a barn burner, and it was. It was all action. And, you know, it's the type of fight that fans talk about, not just the hardcore boxing fans, but just sports fans talk about. The next week, did you see that fight? It was a great fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a close but unanimous decision. All 3 judges score them out the same, 115 to 113. All 3 in favor of the winner. And still, WBA welterweight champion of the world, Keith "One-Time" Thurman.
I believe that I was Keith Thurman's toughest fight. Styles make fights, and my ability to take a fight to Keith Thurman and really challenge him. No one had ever challenged him as a professional, and not too many guys as an amateur either. So I think that it calls for him to adjust and go back to the corner several times to assess things and make some good adjustments. He did, and he pulled out the victory.
Keith Thurman's win at that point made him the best welterweight in the world, #1, the champ. I thought he was the guy that would take over that division and hold on to that title.
The next big moment for Keith was getting in the ring with Danny Garcia, another undefeated fighter. They were unifying titles. I mean, it was a big deal.
When you're boxing for a title unification, you can't make any mistakes. It's really down to who can stay disciplined throughout the whole fight and stay on the game plan. Unification fights are so heralded because that means you're number one, that anybody that wants to challenge you, they know that you're the best man in the division.
Gentlemen, you guys received my instructions in the dressing room. Remember to obey my commands. Protect yourselves always. Only touch gloves now, man. You're boxing at the bell. God bless you both.
In what a lot of people considered the closing gasps of the Pacquiao and Mayweather era, all eyes were on this fight to see which of the two, who of them could stake their claim to becoming the next welterweight king.
Danny Garcia was the legitimate junior welterweight champion of the world. He was the champ, the #1 guy. So moving up to welterweight, he'd had success. He was a legitimate top 5 welterweight at the time.
Boxman!
Garcia has been the more favored adopted son by this New York crowd.
Well, Keith Thurman does in fact bring out the best in his opponents, and the quick why to that is because he is who he is. You know that if your defense is any less than perfect, your offense is any less than perfect, Keith Thurman really is the kind of fighter that can capitalize on those moments. Just happens to find those moments, and if it happens one time, that's where he gets his name from.
Good hook by Thurman, big right hand by Thurman. He hurt Garcia with that one. It's to him again. Oh, Thurman just.
Right hand on the back, but followed with a nice left hook. Then he followed up with an overhand right. Then he was able to survive that, but the tone was set.
When you beat Sean Porter and then you beat another undefeated fighter and Danny Garcia, who's known for knocking out guys, and you know, although Danny hadn't been at 147 for too long, I think for Keith to take on 2 heavy hitters, beat both of us, that's how you really, you start to leave your mark.
He is now the WBA and WBC Unified Welterweight Champion of the World, Keith one-time Thurman.
With each big win like that, that's when a fighter proves himself as a champion, and that's what Keith Thurman did with those 2 wins.
To see Keith really handle Danny Garcia, it surprised people the way he was able to first take Danny's power, but then leave a lot of those power shots that Danny throws. And then at the end of the fight, you know, he's not a scratch on him. And I think that that's where he solidified himself as a true champion.
This is your boy Keith one-time Thurman, and still champion of the world. 1 time became 2 times, baby. Ain't no robberies happening tonight.
In May of 2019, Mario Barrios was then tasked with opening the show in his debut on Big Fox, so big opportunity. Juan Jose Velasco was a once-beaten fighter that he was up against, whose only loss had come to future world champ Regis Prograis over 8 rounds. But Barrios then one-upped him by getting rid of Velasco in just 2 rounds, making his Fox debut brief, but also pretty spectacular.
Velasco is a real cagey fighter. He's going up against the #1 contender here in Barrios, but I really like Velasco and his slickness in the ring.
A lot of fighters, you don't know about us until we hit the big stage. And, you know, even though Mario Barrios wasn't on the biggest stage, he still was on network television. The first time I got to see him, it was like, okay, we got a kid here, literally a kid. He was young, and he had a lot of skills, and you could see some power. You know, so you could tell that trouble was lurking.
Oh, down to his knees.
In pain.
Velasco after a quick delivery.
No, he's hurt.
From Barrios.
I don't think he's getting up.
The best impression he could make. You're a young fighter, a fighter that doesn't really have a big name for the casual boxing fan. You go in the ring on those type of nights, and doing your job is winning, but doing your job the way you need to get it done, body shot knockout like that, can't argue with that.
All right, away we go. Barrios and Akhmedov. Barrios at 5'10", Akhmedov 5'7.5".
The Barrios Akhmedov fight, that was really a good fight. It was all action.
Stunned Akhmedov there.
Akhmedov's shaking on his legs right now.
I don't know if anybody expected as much as they got from him coming into that fight. He was a very difficult opponent for Barrios. Akhmedov really swarmed Barrios most of the fight. It was a real tug of war.
I think Mario Barrios was facing a lot of pressure when you haven't had too many big moments, and then first big title fight, and on a pay-per-view night, and it was a lot. In some ways, he showed that he wasn't quite ready, but then the most important factors that matter in boxing, he showed that he had all those: heart, power, and that will, and that's what got him his victory.
The difference in this fight. In the 12th round with maybe 5-10 seconds left in the fight, Barrios landed a great right hand. Akhmedov left himself open. He kind of reached for a punch, and Barrios stepped back and then came back in quickly with the right hand and dropped him with just seconds to go in the fight. And as it turns out, Barrios won on 2 cards by a large margin, with one card being as close as we were calling it. It was a unanimous decision for Barrios. It was a tough fight, and Barrios got banged up really good in that fight. It was a brawl.
And I got to tell you, right now, Akhmedov is just running forward at Mario Barrios.
Akhmedov was a real aggressive guy, and fighting a southpaw is difficult enough, but when you get a guy in there that's that complete opposite stance that you're used to, and he was just pouring on the pressure. It was nonstop punching. He had a great body attack, head attack, and Barrios as well. Just, a testament to the guy's intestinal fortitude and determination.
Anytime the top guys fight each other, boxing wins. If those top guys fight each other, boxing will be on top again.
Thurman, big a power puncher, he says, is a double-edged sword. I can hurt you, but I can also hurt myself.
Thurman's a realist. He knows this could be a little tenuous.
I think in the fight against Joseto Lopez, what you saw was a Keith Thurman who was feeling his way back into the sport. He had told us that was going to be his get-back year and that he needed that time to come back from injury and kind of feel his way back to being his best in the sport. He'd been out of the ring, almost 2 years, so 22 months. And I think that was visible. I think you could see it wasn't the prime version of Keith Thurman, but you also saw a lot of what he possesses.
There was a lot of ring rust there, and it took him a few rounds to really warm up and get into the fight.
Early on in that fight, it looked like Keith was going to make easy work of Lopez. He scored a knockdown in round 2, and Thurman just looked to kind of be levels above what we knew a very gutsy Joseto Lopez. But the fight turned in the 7th round when Thurman was then put in bad trouble.
Oh, he's got him off balance, and Lopez hammering away.
He hurt Thurman with a left hook and a right hand.
The head knocked backwards. Lopez.
Thurman's hurt.
Powerfully charging, forcing him back in the ropes. Lopez trying to finish it.
And if Lopez lands another couple good combinations like that, he can stop him.
Thurman needs to hang on. I thought that those were wake-up shots. I'm thinking, hey, you can't let this fight get away from you right now. You got to stay focused. And he did. He came back with some great shots of his own.
Our expectation of Keith Thurman is so high that when the fight completely starts to go in reverse for Keith Thurman, it's just not what we expected. And, when you're out of the picture for so long and you come back into the ring, the anticipation, the excitement, everything, and it was like our bubble was being popped right there in front of our eyes, and it was like Keith was no longer Keith Thurman. But, he got it together and pulled it out and, showed that he is Keith Thurman.
Oh, great right hand by Thurman.
When he had to bounce back after almost getting knocked out, Keith Thurman took control back.
And still the undefeated WBA welterweight champion of the world, Keith one-time Thurman.
It was in those moments that we got to see what Keith was really made of as he bit down on the mouthpiece and kept fighting and came away with a well-deserved win in that fight. It wasn't the best performance of Keith Thurman's career. I think he would say that willingly as well, but it showed that he was ready to kind of start working his way back, and he was still willing to call out Manny Pacquiao at the end of that fight and look for those big fights and big opportunities.
All right, here we go from MGM Grand Garden Arena. Manny Pacquiao in his 71st professional bout. Keith, one-time Thurman, unbeaten.
Keith was the latest in a long line of fighters who'd been promising to retire the generational star that was Manny Pacquiao. And in the summer of 2019, he got that chance finally on the biggest stage of his career. Now this was a fight. One legend with another undefeated fighter promising to be the one to end that icon's career. And I think nobody really had a clue how this one was going to play out, and you could kind of feel the building rumble. There was a huge sense of tension and anticipation from where we were sitting to host the show at the MGM Grand just moments before that opening bell.
Well, that fight completely stunned me. I thought that fight had all the makings of, an older fighter who hung on for one fight too many and was fighting a guy who is big and strong within that weight class, who would be all wrong for him.
Many people have fallen to Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest that ever laced him up.
Oh, down goes Thurman!
And even still, it was a split decision. It was a very close fight.
I wasn't surprised that Keith Thurman got knocked down in the very first round of his fight with Manny Pacquiao. It took a number of rounds for Keith Thurman to make the adjustments that we've seen him make time and time again.
Manny Pacquiao did well early on, had Thurman down in the first round and then hurt him in the 10th round with a body shot.
Oh, Pacquiao stung Thurman.
I've never seen a sequence like this from Keith Thurman getting hit with a body shot and taking his mouthpiece out. But, the craziest things have happened in the boxing ring. Usually the mouthpiece gets spit out. Keith's consciousness to get hit to the body the way that he did and pull his mouthpiece out to breathe. It's very, very interesting. He's known for being susceptible to body shots. And then classic Keith, he thinks outside of the box and he does the unthinkable. I probably would go down before I pull my mouthpiece out. And so, number one, I don't know how he got his mouthpiece out. And number two, I don't know what made him think to do that, to get air. He's still very strong-minded and strong-willed, and I think that, those factors are very central for him in his career. Those are the components that got him where he is and, continues to push him through this sport.
And after 12 rounds of action, we have a split decision in favor of the winner, Manny Pacquiao!
Pacquiao's win was a revelation. Just another great fight in a Hall of Fame career. Shows why Pacquiao is such an icon, that he can fight a big, strong, young guy in Keith Thurman, younger than Pacquiao, and still win that fight. So I thought that, that was a big setback for Thurman, because I think most people favored Keith Thurman, thinking he's younger, he's bigger, he'll put this guy out for good.
It was never lost on Keith Thurman that this was a privileged position to be in. He was the first young guy of that kind of the next generation that really got the opportunity to go up against Manny Pacquiao and be the one that would dethrone Manny Pacquiao and kind of stake the claim to be the next generational great. He always just relished that moment and knew that this was the opportunity that every other single welterweight in the division wanted, and that he was privileged enough to get. And it's also just an honor, right, to be alongside a Manny Pacquiao. That's something that you will tell your grandchildren about.
I always think we overemphasize the power of a loss. Fighters lose. Everybody, takes a loss. Most everybody through the history of the sport. But I think it's good to get back in the ring, get your timing back.
It was clear that at this point, Mario Barrios was being showcased for bigger and better things. He fought on a big pay-per-view card as a co-feature against an opponent in Ryan Carl, who really had nothing to lose. And you saw El Azteca raise his game and deliver one of those knockouts that will make it onto highlight reels for years to come.
A big right hand followed by a left hook, and this one is over. What a performance by Mario Barrios.
So Mario Barrios was given an opportunity of a lifetime, seeing his name on the marquee outside a big-time arena as a pay-per-view headliner across the ring from one of the sport's most iconic stars.
Watch the feet, gentlemen. Touch gloves. Back to corner, gentlemen. It is our main event of the evening. Gervonta Davis. Can he become a 3-division world champion, or will Mario Barrios hand Gervonta his first professional loss?
When we look at the fight, Mario Barrios versus Gervonta Davis, we will think that Mario Barrios, of course, is outmatched, and we will think that it's going to be an easy night for Gervonta Davis. And the reasons we think that is because we know Gervonta Davis and we've seen him so many times. We don't know Mario Barrios the same way. And so he taught the boxing world a lesson that night. I think he showed the boxing world who Mario Barrios is. And I think that he showed that you don't have to know a fighter in order for you to be excited about their performance. You can really overlook guys. And I don't think that Gervonta Davis overlooked Mario Barrios, but I definitely feel like the boxing world did.
There's a nice right hand that landed by Barrios. There's a left hook to the body by Barrios. And now they're starting to pick up the action. Under 50 seconds to go. Big straight left by Gervonta. Barrios handled it well.
Mario Barrios did better than okay in that fight. He was winning that fight. I thought he won probably 5 out of the first 6 rounds and then captured a few of the late rounds. If I were in his corner, I would have been very pleased with that performance against Tank Davis. I mean, you know, he's a tough guy to deal with. I thought Barrios fought the fight of his life that night. And it took Tank Davis's determination and non-stop aggression to finally catch up to Barrios. But I think Barrios also put himself in a position where he may have tangled on the inside a little bit too much with Tank towards the end.
Barrios fighting on sheer guts and determination. Barrios says, come on, bring it. He loves this.
I thought it was one of his best performances. So the fact that Barrios did so well against a tricky left-hander like Tank Davis, I thought was exceptional that night. I thought he really, really performed well against a southpaw when your style is geared towards a right-hander.
Well, there's a right hook. Down goes Barrios. The first time in his career. Now Davis going for the finish. Down goes Barrios for the second time in the fight.
Getting dropped twice in the 8th round, getting up and surviving in that round, I think is a moment where you show the world who you are, but again, you learn a lot about yourself. He got caught clean the first knockdown. I think he wasn't quite recovered from that knockdown. He goes down again. And I think that second knockdown was enough of a moment for him to really quickly assess things. You want them to show will, determination, you know, that grit, that might, and those are components that Mario Barrios has.
Barrios gets up again. That's 3 knockdowns for Davis. Can Davis get the finish?
If I trained someone of his height and reach, I would try to do exactly what's been taught to him as it stands now. He's got all the qualifications to be champion again.
Damn! Was that a heck of a fight? And what an effort by Mario Barrios.
He's a strong fighter. He's got pop. He's explosive. He's got a lot of speed with his size and his length. He is going to be trouble for anyone he gets in the ring with. Even in losing the fight, he showed a lot and proved a lot to a lot of the boxing world.
He's walking away tonight the better man, but I'll definitely be back.
For him to get back on the horse, back in the ring, and he's coming back strong. You know, he's coming back strong mentally and physically to prove that, hey, that one knockdown and knockout was a fluke.
I think that Mario Barrios really showed us what being a Mexican fighter is all about. Mexican fans have really high expectations of their fighters in terms of the way they are to lose a fight. If they're gonna lose it, you're gonna lose it going out on your shield. And that is exactly what Mario Barrios showed that he is willing to do. It takes a special kind of character to be willing to go to that place. I think if you're gonna, wear the name El Azteca and come into the ring the way that he did, really representing his Mexican roots, then you have to be able to carry that through. And that was exactly what we saw from him.
What a ring walk for Mario Barrios as he's soaking in this moment.
I think there were definitely lessons to be learned from the fight against Gervonta Davis. Obviously, Gervonta Davis has power that is a problem for anybody. He's explosive. I think that, now Mario Barrios is going up against a Keith Thurman who also has a similar knockout power style. So I think that, yes, he'll definitely have learned lessons about how his own style plays into that.
Getting in the ring with, a true 147-pound champion, former champion, and Keith Thurman, only one loss. I think that the boxing world is going to respect this fight. With us not seeing Keith Thurman in so long, I think that this truly is a 50-50 fight.
When you're looking at two fighters who've taken losses in their last fights, so much of boxing is mental, right? So you're looking at character and what can you read from both of these guys as they're coming back into this one. And I think so much of boxing is about confidence. Yes, you can take a loss, but it's how you come back. And so I think that's going to be key. How does Keith Thurman come back after a really tough loss against Manny Pacquiao and a long time out? How does Mario Barrios come off a big loss to Gervonta Davis? Whichever man can carry the loss better, whichever man can digest that and move forward, put it behind him, and just kind of start afresh coming into this fight, I think that's the man that will win. I think it's all about the mental side in this one. I think this one's going to be really exciting. Keith Thurman and Mario Barrios are two fighters that come forward. They both have that warrior spirit and bend but don't break mentality. So when two fighters with those characteristics meet in the center of the ring, you are guaranteed of fireworks.
Stopped by Mario.
Good hook by Thurman. Big right hand by Thurman. He hurt Garcia with that.
This card is stacked with great fighters.
This place is ready to erupt.
Renowned champion of the world, Leo Santa Cruz.
Leo Santa Cruz, he throws punches and bunches.
Santa Cruz, tremendous action.
Headshots, body shots. Santa Cruz is putting on a clinic. Santa Cruz on the attack, pouring it on. Brutal shots being landed by Santa Cruz.
Everything that's good about boxing.
He's definitely one of the most exciting guys right now.
Puts on an action-packed show every time.
I think Leo Santa Cruz is a great fighter. If he doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume already, he's very close. Multi-division champion, exciting fighter, a volume puncher.
Santa Cruz has thrown over 1,000 punches already.
He's got quality wins throughout his career. Leo Santa Cruz is still one of the best fighters in that weight class and in the world.
El Tenermoto and his earthquake best right now. Combinations have been lethal.
Those are the shots that stop fights.
And still the WBA featherweight champion of the world.
Thank you to all the fans that came out here to support me. I really appreciate it.
Leo Santa Cruz.
Joseto Lopez, Abel Ramos. That's a really good fight. There's my natural reaction.
Blood flying, sweat flying. Wow.
Last time I saw Joseto, he was sharp, powerful, fast. He still had it. Abel Ramos is a very steady fighter, orthodox, sound, sharp. So I think the two of them will bring about an outstanding fight. I mean, probably a violent fight.
He is the winner by way of knockout.
I think in boxing we're all grateful for Mexican fighters because you know that if you go to a fight that involves a Mexican boxer, you're going to be in for a good time. They're going to keep powering through, whether they're cut, whatever happens. Any adversity that comes a Mexican fighter's way, they push through it. It's just kind of this creed that they have, honoring the tradition of Mexican boxing and the greats that have gone before. And I think there's something that's so special and that we all enjoy so much about what Mexico and Mexican fighters bring to the sport of boxing.
What a shot! And it's over!
What I love about this card is you've got guys that will fight. You're not going to be bored at all. That's why I'm happy that I'm actually announcing this fight, because if I wasn't, I'd either be pay-per-viewing it or I'd be in Vegas watching it. So, in keeping in standing with some of the great cards that you'll ever see in Vegas, this one stands up to that scrutiny. You've got Keith Thurman, who's undoubtedly going to be in the Boxing Hall of Fame as one of the great welterweight champions of all time.
Nice right hand by Thurman, one of his best in a while.
You've got Mario Barrios, who he's still got a lot of life in his career. He's a young guy still, and he's so exciting to watch.
Oh, and this one is over. What a performance by Mario Barrios.
I'm going to be very curious to see if Thurman has maintained that athleticism that I've talked about, because you never know until you get in the ring. And Barrios, how he's recouped from his great performance against Tank Davis. There's a lot of question marks about this fight. That's what makes it intriguing for me.
This fight between Mario Barrios and Keith Thurman is gonna be exciting. You really don't know what you're gonna get on fight night, and those are the best fights. When you know they're gonna be competitive, you know that both guys got power, speed, everything that you want out of a fighter. Both these guys got it, but the best part about it is we don't know what's gonna happen, and so you gotta tune in.
Both guys say, yeah, you wanna go? You wanna go? Let's go.
You got Keith Thurman, great mover, box counter puncher, and he's always exciting. You got Mario Barrios. He's, coming to fight, and he's coming out on his shield. If he gets knocked down, he's getting up. If he gets knocked out, he's waking back up. I think both styles complement each other. Keith Thurman obviously moves around the ring quite well, and Barrios, he's aggressive, he's coming at you, and he's applying pressure at all times.
Oh, great right hand by Thurman.
I would say Thurman has the edge because he counter punches well. That means if you try and punch him and knock him out, make sure that you're not out of place because he'll take advantage of that.
I think anytime Keith is in the ring and gets a win and looks like Keith Thurman, there's a lot to gain. And I think immediately, if he's able to win this fight, perhaps do it in resounding fashion, I think that sets the mandate, again, for the winner's bracket in the welterweight division and to get into the championship class. He's entering his mid-30s. You don't want to be aging while these young guys are getting into their prime. The time is now for Thurman to capitalize, get back and stay busy, stay active, and see if he can be the welterweight champion of the world again.
My coach just said, box, box, box. You're giving them a hard time, and I felt like that. I felt like we were controlling the 3-minute intervals in each and every single round.
Fighting under the bright lights in Las Vegas. It's exciting. You see your name and your picture on every billboard and casino. And, on fight night, if people are in Las Vegas, they're there for a fight. Well, I think that Mario Barrios is ready for this stage, Las Vegas pay-per-view against Keith Thurman. You got, a young fighter, younger fighter, and Mario Barrios who wants it all. I think that he's the kind of guy, Mario, that can combine that energy and make it what he needs it to be to live in a special night.
I want all the smoke. I told you, I'm ready. I hope I put on a great show in front of y'all.
Fight fans are gonna get what they want. It's gonna be a fight. I expect Keith to be very defensive and that counter-punching ability that Keith has, and you cannot forget about the power. It's gonna go back and forth, and I think that this fight's gonna be quite exciting.
Keith, his defense is sharp and on point, but he's been hit, he's been hurt a few times. I think he's shown, a lot of guts in a lot of different fights. So he's going to have to fight. He's going to have to come forward. He's going to have to be in a firefight.
February 5th on pay-per-view, Las Vegas. Keith Thurman has the edge against Mario Barrios because of his experience, because he's been there before and he wants to get back there. I am going to bet on all of the intangibles that Keith Thurman has to overcome anything that Mario Barrios is going to bring to the ring.
It's going to be a fantastic night of boxing. You've got Keith Thurman and Mario Barrios headlining an incredibly deep card. It is February 5th, Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, so iconic location for boxing being in Vegas. And you've got just a really stacked card in terms of the other talent that you're going to see there. Not only is it Keith Thurman trying to prove what he can still do in the division and Mario Barrios trying to prove that he belongs in the division at 147, but you've also got Leo Santa Cruz coming back. It's going to be fascinating to see how he bounces back. You've got Abel Ramos against Joseto Lopez. That one's going to be an all-out war. There is just a huge depth of incredible action on this card.
I'm a boxing fan more than anything else. That's why I even got into this game in the first place. I love boxing. I love fighters, and I love fighters who leave it all in the ring. And every single guy on this card will leave it in the ring. Everything. And I couldn't recommend it more. You'll love it. Order the fight. You won't regret it. It's going to be a great night of boxing.